Good evening, everyone. This is the Screen to Speed Winter Cup penultimate race here at the legendary Mount Panorama circuit in Bathurst. My name is Jamie Jessica Martin, and I'm going to be your commentator tonight. Joining me, of course, is the race direction by Sophia Ronwin and broadcast director Steve Proudley of AK Esports. So, Mount Panorama, what can you say? It's one of the most legendary and beloved circuits on the Southern Hemisphere, of course, based in New South Wales, Australia. It's 23 corners, 6.2 kilometres, and has a legendary status in motorsports, not including the Bathurst 1000, which has run from 1963 consistently. Of course, the Bathurst 12-hour that's kind of hopped around from year to year to year, though has been a consistent since 2007, excluding 2021 due to restrictions, but also played host to Grand Prix motorcycle racing and very early post-war era Formula One before moving back to Adelaide and to other tracks along the Australian front. So ultimately, what we're going to be looking at here is we're going to be seeing 10 drivers take on the legendary Bathurst circuit here at Mount Panorama, and we'll see who comes out on top. Of course, it's been a bit of an interesting challenge. We'll look to see what we got in terms of the points. We'll talk about the points system first, if you haven't seen us so far this season. Of course, points are awarded by classification during the race. Position 150, position 2 45, position 3, so your podium 41 points. That goes all the way down to P16 with 25. Of course, going down further, P17 will be 24, and 22nd will be 19. Of course, 1 point for pole position and 1 point for the fastest lap. Of course, we'll look at the points overall very shortly, and here we are. We've got Gears of Corona after that incredible win last weekend out, taking the lead over TBSS Girl 21. Of course, Jenny, Sean Mickelson, though, FR Girl Sean, as known in game, as you'll see in the leaderboard, currently in P3, managing to survive. Probably not one of the best races we've seen from her. Sheila Pix, though, had a relatively good race until some issues at Spa. Of course, in P4 with 141, Sarah Hawkey P5, Mariah Light P6, Sharon Fly P7, Purple Labris in P8, Asher Silver in P9, and Annalise Riot in P10. Kristen Back will start off the next group with Yukino Suzuka in P12, Kyle Oliveira in P13, Tanakitas P14, LA Lamas in P15, Just Hun the streamer, not been here the last couple of weeks, it's been a bit too busy, currently in P16, Girl Cole P17, Shara PT P18, Sandrisa P19, and P20 is Zoe. And the final bunch of positions, Ellie in P21, S Sparkle SGL, and Christina Ruiz, with Christina Ryan following up the rear. So as you can see, this circuit is absolutely monstrous. 23 corners, a mixture of public roads and privately developed land. It creates one of the most legendary uphill and downhill segments in motorsports. It's one that, as we've said, has played host to absolutely everything there is to know. Of course, the pinnacles of motorsport, like I mentioned earlier, Formula One was here from 1938, 1947, 1952, and 1958. So, for those that turned around and said, I wish Formula One cars would come here, they have been here. Though, in fairness, it was a very long time ago, and a very different kind of car to the ones you would see today. And of course, motorcycle racing was incredibly popular here. In fact, one of its well-known corners was named after a former motorcycle racer. Of course, Jack Forrest Elbow at turn 18, after legend says he came off of his Norton at that corner in 1947 and scraped his elbow. But Mount Panorama as a whole, with all 23 corners, really is something special. You'll see, of course, some really long straights with Mountain Straight in P2, and we'll go to Conrod Straight on the way back. Of course, we'll head over to track now, and we will see what's going on in qualifying. It is Lightspeed leading the way so far, though it is relatively early for these drivers, as they've all come out of the pits. We're just going to talk about some of the interesting things here. Of course, this is the incline here going up towards the cutting. So we are going to see like this gradual turn, and this here, there is very little room to make mistakes. If you've ever driven Bathurst as a track, you ultimately are just limited in space. You're pushing as fast and as hard as you can to gain every single second out of every single inch. But 1 inch too far and you will end up in a wall or a gravel trap. Though in fairness, it's more likely to be a wall. So you're looking here as of course you're going through Skyline here, one of the fastest pit portions of the uphill. And just this is your downhill section right here, heading out towards through Frog's Hollow. And here is Forest Elbow, as we mentioned, now heading on to one of the most ridiculous and longest straights in motorsports, of course, excluding the Mulsanne. This is Conrod Straight. You're maxing out the rev limiter here, especially as you go underneath this bridge, underneath this advertising board, and ultimately you're going to suddenly come into a hard braking zone here. And I'll take you through a lap in a moment, an on-board lap. But of course, as it stands, as we head through the chase now, we're wanting to see how this all goes for Lightspeed. In P1, Chilapix is behind at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see what time Chilapix can set. Looking at the moment, it looks pretty clean laps there from Lightspeed. 2:14. Chilapix beats out by 2/10 of a 2 seconds. Looks like it's Yukino Suzuka, and we'll go on board, of course, for a lap here out as you come out of Hell Corner here, out the main straight. You're going down the mountain straight now. You're going to have some slight rises, 2 in all, before slightly going on a decline here as you head into Griffin's Bend. Griffin's Bend, second corner, and you have to really keep feathering the accelerator, but not try and hit the brakes here as you head up towards turn 3 and turn 4. Of course, it's turn 3 now, heading into the cutting, and you have to get that corner right, otherwise you're in trouble. You've got this sudden right, and then you have to have this gradual right, and it's all one gradual right, but you have to really keep tapping the brakes through Quarry Corner, or touching the wall there, heading out through turn 7 as you head through Frog Hollow here. This is a really fast portion. If you get it wrong, you clip that wall through Solomon Park, and then you've got McPhillamy Park over here as you head out here down the decline through Skyline. And all Lightspeed's had a problem, and that has caused multiple incidents right there. But heading through the S's now, a left to right, looks like damage there. We'll possibly try and hop on one of the other cars. We'll hop on Lightspeed's car. Of course, we missed the Dipper, but we're heading through Forest Elbow now, back into Conrod. Like I said, if you just watch the accelerator on this car, maybe you're not going to see it with the damage to the car as predominantly, but you'll see the accelerator. You're absolutely flat out here. You could not let off here, but you also have to be smart in where you're braking, especially with late braking. A good example here, of course, is on board with Sarah Hawkey in the Ferrari, maxing out that car, heading into 7th. And now you want to try and finish or stop by the 100-meter board there, heading through the chase here into turns 21 and 22, under the Armour All Bridge, and through to the final corner of this race, of this track, Murray's Corner. And you'll see here a 1 completed lap, though with multiple drivers, considering some of the carnage in between. See what lap that Sarah Hawkey gets. That's enough for P5. Currently 5 seconds off the fastest lap by Gears of Grona. So a really solid start there from the current championship leader. Chilapix, though, once again showing exactly what we want to see from one of the leaders of this, one of the growing leaders of the championship in terms of pace. Gears, of course, is one of the only drivers that have won multiple races in first split in this series so far. So ultimately, this is advantage Gears of Grona at the moment, but Chilapix could potentially change that with a good race here today. Though in fairness, I would say that gap 1/10 of a second. Wait to see what happens here. A 2:12.015. What's Gears of Grona going to be able to do here? Girza is going to bring it down here, and that's a 1:11.646. 5 temps up on Tulipix now. So what else can you say? She's finding absolutely incredible amounts of time, and really positive here, you know, from Ellie Lamas as well, up to P3 at the moment in the Mazda. In fairness, Ellie Lamas was doing incredibly well at the Nürburgring before technical issues affected the Argentinian driver. Of course, wasn't able to make it last week, but is back again for Bathurst, and really is looking incredibly fast. TBSS Girl, though, was the championship leader before last round, and is currently, once again, in P3. This is another driver that you have to keep an eye out for as well. TBSS Girl, of course, incredibly consistent. Could benefit from some of the carnage that the mountain will give you. We're on board with that Aston Martin right now. As we're going up, of course, the uphill section, the real start here through the cutting. Just look how tight that Aston is having to stay to the cutting, and you really have to. Otherwise, you're not utilizing all of the time that's in that track, and you have to keep it close. Like I said, you're trying to move the car here, run it over the curb, and not have it drift out too far into that corner, into the wall there. Oh, having some problems here heading through Solomon Park and through McPhillamy as we head through Skyline. Oh, a bit of drifting through Skyline, manages to recover it heading through the S's. So relatively good drift, not great for time on this track. As we head down through the Dipper, of course, and through this sudden section of almost 4 corners in a row up towards Forest Elbow. 21 car probably is not going to set the fastest lap. Looks like Sharon Fly has set a personal best lap for the session. A bit further down the field though. Had a relatively decent race last week out at Spa. Some really solid stuff there from the German driver. TBSS Girl, the American at the moment. Just going to see what she's got in the tank, though in fairness, like we said, probably that drift there not quite going to help as you head through Murray Corner. That's TBSS Girl. Yeah, there we go. That says it all, doesn't it? Unfortunately, you make a single mistake through this track, you've lost big time. It's all about remaining flowing, constant, and eking as much time out without compromising yourself. This track pretty much is the closest thing I could say to you have to have the guts to go fast here. Because in this situation, you can't be passive. To be fast here, you cannot be careful. You can't be cautious. You have to be attacking every single line. Otherwise, you are going to be slow, and you're going to be slower than everyone else around you. It's a battle of who is willing to take those risks. A lot of those times, those risks do not pay off, but sometimes they just might, and that wins you races here at Bathurst. We watch Sarah Hawkey go across the line. It's going to be an improvement up to P7. Cuts down to 4 seconds. So not too bad. Of course, GRC Zoe right now, of course, someone that's new to this so far, doesn't improve up to P8 in that Mercedes. Gonna watch Sharon fly. What can Sharon do? As Liberal Chaos says, switching through a bunch of the feeds. Ellie Lamas in P4. Will she improve? The answer is no. Currently 1.8 seconds off of the pole time. It looks like Girza Grona is probably going to take this. And as we see, Girza Grona leads the way, of course, with the fastest lap. And this will be your order for the grid. Of course, Girza Grona setting the pole lap of 2:11.646. Incredible lap there, of course, from Girza Grona. Nobody else could really get closer. Tulipix, TBSS Girl, and 21, and Orma Ellie Lamas are your first top 4 in your front 2 rows. Row 3 will be Lightspeed and FR Girl Sean. Sarah Hawkey and GRC Zoe will be your 4th row. And your 5th and final row will be Sharon Fly and Liberal Chaos. We will go back to the track panel. We'll just see exactly how everything is laid out right now. But, I mean, what else can you say? It's one of the most scenic tracks as well. I mean, obviously, this is a digitized version of the circuit. Isn't necessarily what you would see in the actual on the actual track, or at least you probably looks better in real life than in Pixel. But I mean, what else can you say? It is an absolute dream, and commentating Bathurst is always fun because you never know what is going to happen. If I've not lost my voice before the end of this race, to be honest with you, I've not done a good job. As you can see, in the hills, of course, nestled in the New South Wales hills at Bathurst, it has ultimately made a town here. You know, this track here, while it did exist, Bathurst did exist before the circuit. It has been around for so long, opening in 1938, that, to be honest with you, the words Bathurst, when you think of it as a circuit, it makes the town. It makes exactly what it means to be a fan of this sport, and it's Australian motorsport encapsulated. The special nature of those, of course, the supercars known as V8 supercars in the past. They are probably the most prominent. Of course, we do have the Intercontinental GT Championship, the Bathurst 12-hour. That has been a significant part of the racing schedule and is one that, of course, happened only but a weekend ago. So it's not completely a barren wasteland for most of the year. Of course, there's 2 races here in the Supercars Championship this year. The opening race and, of course, the 1000 a bit later on this year. So, as we're waiting for the grid to line up, of course, if you're in the chat right now on YouTube and on Twitch, if you want to share how you're feeling, the excitement that you have, or who you're supporting, make sure you put it in the chat. And as we're about to go live, of course, this is Tulipix. I think the ordering is a bit wrong here, but it's Tulipix apparently in P1. It should be Gears of Corona in P1, but we'll see as the lights go out, and it's Gears of Corona getting the absolutely brilliant start there. Not too bad heading into Hell Corner so far. Gears of Corona is going to have the advantage here, but looks like a bit of a tap there from Lightspeed. It's so far the first 2 are out there, but there's a battle behind them between TBSS Girl and Lightspeed at the moment, heading down Mountain Straight. So far it is a battle. Tulipix you see behind, it's a battle between the Aston and the Alpha, but it also looks like Ellie Lamas is trying to get involved. Ellie Lamas is trying to make a move on the inside. A bump there from the Mazda on the Aston Martin as they head up through Griffin's Bend. Oh, and I can tell you what, this is incredibly dicey racing. This is exactly what you're going to see from, of course, the crew and from everyone driving here. This is Bathurst in a nutshell, whether it's digital or not. You'd see this in real racing too. PBSS Girl has dropped down 1 position. Ellie Lamas has been absolutely fantastic, but is now being chased and really staying close to the Argentinian driver, TBSS Girl, really wanting to catch back up to Gears of Corona and Tulipix. You know, this was a driver that was in the lead of the championship up until last round at Spa. So because of this, you really think that she's going to want to chase that one back. She doesn't want to give this one up without a fight. And very close there. And Ellie Lamas has made a mistake, had an issue. TBSS Girl is caught up, and this is the absolute nightmare of Bathurst right here. It's being involved in a wreck that is ultimately not your fault because there's so little room. Ellie Lamas looks like having a penalty. Looks like they have damage, and this is going to really affect them down Conrod. You know, this straight, you're going to have to be going 100% of your pace that's available, otherwise you're in big trouble. Tulipix has overtaken Gears of Corona. Incredible stuff here, of course, from the wow, from the championship. From the 4th placer currently in the championship. Absolutely solid stuff from the Mazda. Really good stuff. I think obviously tyre wear is going to be a question for the Mazda heading through this race. Of course, we've got 50 minutes of this race. So it is plenty more to go, and of course enforced pit stops yet to go. But it is Tulipix who comes out after lap 1 in the lead of this race. I didn't think that was going to happen. That must have been a mistake from Gearza. Must have been a mistake. Not sure what's happened there. TBSS Girl, though, has overtaken, is up to P3. It looks like Ellie Lamas possibly has damage. Lightspeed is currently under pressure, though, from the Ferrari of FR Gulshawn heading up through Mountain Straight. So it really is tight. It's probably one of the tightest races we've seen so far, not necessarily at the front, but also from the midfield as well. So many cars in close proximity to one another, battling, chasing, and as they head up through Griffin's Bend, it is currently FR Gulshawn on the inside. It is Lightspeed on the outside. P5, P6, position switch for the Dutch driver. Dutch driver now ahead of Lightspeed in the Alpha. I think Lightspeed did say that this was going to be a battle of survival here, and that the Alpha would definitely struggle in the uphill section. So it does make sense that it is happening, and it does seem to be playing true. As we head, of course, through Frog Hollow into Solomon Park for the leading drivers. Of course, we're heading out for the same here. Through Solomon Park, through McPhillamy. It is currently FR Gulshawn leading the way in terms of this group here, but isn't too far away from Ellie Lamas. It's like a bit of a slam of the brakes there I could hear over the radio, and all very close there from Lightspeed heading through the S's. Heading out towards Forest Elbow. Ellie Lamas, we're on board, of course, with FR Gulshawn. Currently doing pretty well. That Ferrari is incredibly pacey. We knew that was possibly going to be the case down the Conrod Straights. Those Ferraris are quite good on speed, so it doesn't surprise me that there's pressure there. But Gears Corona, it looks like Chulapix has done a really good job in keeping Gearza in check. Now the question is going to be, can Gearza keep her head together and just focus on the task at hand? A very wide corner there from Gulshawn. Doesn't look like it's affected them too bad. That's a bit wide there from the Mercedes of Zoe there. It looks like Gears Corona taking the fastest lap. 2:11. That's just about. That's pretty much qualifying lap right there for the McLaren. Absolutely incredible stuff now, and is now going to try and attack probably at the end of this straight here into Griffin's Bend as they head down the mountain straight for the third time of this race. Chulapix right now, Gears Corona, currently your top two. Just like it has been for much of this season so far, it is these two that are leading the way, but there's plenty going on in the background. TBSS Girl still in P3, and in more of a distant P3 now. Ellie Lamas has fallen behind. It does look like the battle is really here in the battle for P4, 5, and 6. Of course, you can see Zoe in the background there in P7. But these three are going to be battling away. Well, Ellie Lamas is kind of falling into these two drivers. I think there's damage to that car after that early issue through the S's. But right now, it is Gulshawn at the moment, currently there, but is leading and is trying to put pressure on.
No damage on the car.
So we're having a look to see what's happening at the moment as they head through the S's. Gears Corona, I don't know whether that's the sim or just the way that car just glides through those corners. You always have to kind of go straight. As you turn into the left, you kind of have to go straight and hit it at the right angle and not really turn heavily into it. You don't want to take the corners as accurate as possible. You kind of want to be in a position where you're limiting your turning angle and you're kind of just going as straight as you can through it while making slight adjustments to the wheel. And you can see these two absolutely really hammering that in terms of the S's. Very little in terms of side-to-side movement through that corner. And that's so hard to do because it really is one of the toughest corners on this track. So heading up to lap 4 at the moment, it's Chulapix leading the way. Gears Corona in P2 at the moment. These two have been the class of the field so far. And honestly, it doesn't surprise me to say that they once again look to be that as well. TBSS Girl, a bit of a distant third at the moment, but a podium is still a podium there. Wait to see what happens. So far, the last couple of races have been affected by weather. I don't think, and from what has been rumored, I don't think we're going to see any weather here. So, because of that, this is going to come down partially to strategy, but it's also going to come down to who can survive, who can push this car faster and faster and faster and more on edge without making a mistake. This is genuinely going to be the greatest test of just absolute strength. And Tulipix has blinked, and Tulipix has gone wide through the cutting and is already now back behind Gears of Grona. Gears of Grona is now leading the race. Maybe commentators curse a bit too much there, but I tell you what, absolutely incredible stuff there, of course, from Gears of Grona. Absolutely unbelievable. So, of course, another thing you want to mention. Oh, Tulipix had a massive problem and has caught coming out of Skyline heading into the S's. That's a penalty, and that, you tend to think, is contest over, at least for the moment. Oh, and Ellie Lamas had a problem through the S's as well, and this is going to back Ellie Lamas into this fight here. This could be incredibly interesting for TBSS Girl now as well, because that is going to be damage to Tulipix's car. And I mean, what a shame, absolute shame there for the Mazda driver. Was looking incredibly strong, but like I said, this is the kind of track where you're pushing to every single space, every single second, every single gap. If you don't hit it, you will be caught out. And it is just remaining as confident as possible. The Aston right now, currently in P3, distant at the moment, but I think it's going to get closer as this race goes on. Currently that gap's around 2 seconds. I can imagine that's going to come down, especially down on the straights. Watch Conrod, watch the mountain straight. I can imagine that gap's going to slightly come in now, especially without Gears of Grona providing a slipstream as well. So Sharon Fly at the moment, we're on board now, and Sharon Fly's gone incredibly wide coming out of Murray Corner, and it looks like Zoe is going to try and maybe apply pressure with that Mercedes. Going to Hell Corner into turn 1, maybe an opportune dive, no. Probably the right decision there from the British driver. And so far, it is the McLaren leading the way from the Mercedes. On board with the Aston Martin now. That gap's now down to 1.8 or 1.6 seconds. It's kind of fluctuating between the two. It's safe to say it's more 1.7 at the moment. I think this is going to be the solace for that Mazda, because this uphill section, you're not going to be able to use as much of your raw speed. It's all going to be about cornering and taking the corner, and who wants to provide it. You see, heavily damaged cars can still do incredibly well here at Bathurst because of this uphill section, because it really is trying to push the car to its limits while also nursing the car. As we head, of course, through McPhillamy Park there, we're looking at the bottom of heading into Conrod now. This is where I think we're going to see the gap start to diminish. Oh, looks like apparently Cyril Hawkey's had a problem a bit further down. Not sure what's happened there. Apparently damage to that car as well. 1.5 seconds penalty. That's going to have to be served right at the bottom here at the beginning of Conrod Straight. Of all the places that you have to have a penalty line here, in GT7, this is the worst place to have it, in the middle of Conrod. 1.5 seconds becomes very, very, very costly. And it's now going to be backed off of Zoe by about 7 seconds. Mercedes is not doing too bad around here. Too bad. The GT4 spec car. Looking at this at the moment, is Zoe heading up through Hell Corner. So I'm hearing in my ear damage as well for Zoe as well. That could be potentially interesting for any pace that could exist up, of course, Mountain Straight. Rear damage for Sharon, of course. Like we said, it's very much, you have to be perfect to make this track or to complete a race without any form of mistake or any form of damage. It looks like a side swipe there for Sharon Fly coming out of Griffin's Bend there. so not ideal. TBSS Girl, gap down to 1.7. Needs to start getting the hammer down here. She needs to try and eat into Tulipix's time. It's a good run here, and then Conrad will do a lot for her, as Tulipix is having to overcompensate due to the damage. Here we go. Gap's going to come down. Oh, not significantly. Okay, it does seem like the Mazda might be holding on a little bit better. Of course, race win now unlikely without any weather impact. But so far, Tulipix is very much going to be under pressure. And the question will be, what can TBSS Girl do here? Girl Sean right now, heading up in P5 through to the chase. Not too bad for Ferrari. Oh, and apparently it is TBSS Girl's birthday today, so congratulations and happy birthday, Jenny, from all of us here at Init Esports, and of course the commentary and production teams. Best for another year for yourself, and we hope you get a pretty good result here on your birthday. As we head through the mountain straight on board with the birthday girl. So far, best lap. Best for Sector 1 there, if I think of overall. There's a purple Sector 1 there for TBSS Girl, so really solid stuff there. There is pace in this Aston yet, as we head up towards the cutting. So we're going up here through Quarry Corner, heading up into this section here, through Reed Park, through Frog Hollow. Once again, try not to clip that wall, try not to hit the wall very close. Kind of where you want to position yourself. Close enough that you're just inches away, but obviously not in it. So far, though, that gap's not really come down between her and Tulipix. TBSS Girl currently heading through Forest Elbow. What about gap? Oh, okay. Looks like Girl Sean has had problems a bit further down. Has had a collision a bit further up. Oh, Lightspeed hitting the edge of Forest Elbow there. 1.5 second penalty for Girl Sean here. That's going to happen halfway down Conrad. Just wait and see. This one really has been a battle of survival for everyone involved so far. Lightspeed, though, doing what she can. Sharon Fly, though, currently on board in P7, has damage, but probably not as significant as Girl Sean. And of course, Girl Sean had that slowdown down Conrad as well. And I think that ultimately playing a part in that tail right there. Spa wasn't great for Girl Sean, and it looks like Bathurst possibly not either. But there's still plenty more to go. All it takes is a mistake, and anyone, including from first to last, can make a mistake that changes the outlook of this race. So currently at the moment, Tulipix is being chased down here by TBSS Girl. Gap's now down to 1 second. Heading through the chase. It just seems like the car is starting to come away. That Mazda started to come away. I wonder if it's down to tyres as well as the damage, but I think this is starting to go the way, and I can see a move happening down Conrad. Yeah, it looks like, I assume the pit strategies will start to come into play very shortly. And heading through the S's, gap is down to 8 tenths. The Aston trailing the Mazda. Mazda drifting out of Forest Elbow there, captures the wall, and that's not going to help Tulipix's cause either. It's TBSS Girl who's going to be chasing down Conrad. trying to break the toe. But you can just see that pace difference. Tyres probably damaged as well. But that Aston makes it through round Conrad. Exactly what I said would happen heading into the chase. And it is the Aston leading the way. But the Mazda's going to try and make a move here. Ooh, bit of a risky dive there, but it has worked for Tulipix. Stays ahead once again. But it looks like if you're going to go down the mountain straight, possibly a move into Griffin's corner, Griffin's Bend. Potentially upcoming, but so far, looks like Tulipix has managed to pull away a decent lap. Strong stuff there from TBSS Girl. So we're having a look at the moment, TBSS Girl. Apparently Gears has had a problem. Gears has had a problem. Heading down the mountain. Front damage, and it's serious. Facing the wrong way. This is at Griffin's corner, at Griffin's Bend. This is massive. What did I say? What did I say only a few moments ago? Anyone from first to last can make a mistake that can change the outlook of this race. That is what Bathurst is. And I tell you what, it's just happened. And Tulipix, who looked almost absolutely destined to be well away from a chance here, has completely taken this one back. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to be fighting here up the mountain, especially with both cars with damage. Significantly, I'd sit here as Tulipix. I'd say, look, she's going to have a penalty here coming down the middle of Conrad Straight. It's going to compromise her big time. You're going to overtake her down Conrad. Don't overdo it. Because otherwise you'll both end up in a wall, you both end up with really severe damage, and suddenly a key championship rival has overtaken you both, and you're in big trouble. Mazda tapped the wall on the exit again, so slight tapping there. Just overdoing the boundaries of those cars so far, but Gearza is now going to see that and is dropped back all the way back to P3. If you said a moment ago that she was going to fall behind and she was going to suddenly be in P3 at the end of the lap, I think you would have been said you must have been dreaming. But actually, it looks like TBSS Girl is going to try and make a move here through the chase and makes their move there. Last time it didn't go the way of TBSS Girl. I think Gears of Grona had a problem there heading out of the chase there. So really struggling that car at McLaren. And that could be massive. TBSS Girl now leading the way. The Aston Martin now in P1, but Tulipix is going to try and make something of this. Well, it's 10 laps, and the order of everything looks so different. So different. TBSS Girl leading the way over Tulipix. Gears of Grona in P3, now 6 tenths down, was 16 ahead before that issue, heading out of Griffin's Bend. Last lap, and that has cost significant position and time for the championship leader. And this is not going to be ideal for Gears of Grona either, because this allows TBSS Girl to get points back should it stay the same. This allows TBSS Girl a chance to fight back and narrow the gap at the top of the championship. Lightspeed right now in P4. With the cars with damage ahead, I mean, Lightspeed has had some endeavours as well. Tulipix definitely struggling, and I think TBSS Girl is doing exactly what she needs to do. Some considerable, I mean, one thing I've been saying about TBSS Girl throughout this entire championship so far has been consistency. Being in and around the top level of points, winning race 1, being on the podium, when not being on the podium, being in P4. Spa was a bit of an anomaly for TBSS Girl, in all fairness. But being around the top 4 throughout the season, usually on the podium, and that has been the bread and butter of this driver throughout the entirety of this season. Now we're seeing it come to fruition in the perfect representation of a race possible. Tulipix Maybe is going to go into the pits. Oh, massive problem there. Ending up into the gravel, heading into the pit, through the pits, avoiding Murray's corner, but at one point looked like she was going to end up taking it with the way that the way the car went, and that is not going to help the cause of the of the Mazda driver. And Gears of Corona is also in the pits as well. Lightspeed is now ahead, currently lapping Liberal Chaos there, the champion, the leader. Wait to see what happens here. There is damage. This has ultimately been a really tough test for these drivers. And so far, Tulipix has had a bit of an up and down race. Had a race lead, made a massive mistake, gave it up to Gears of Corona. Gears of Corona makes a mistake, and all 4 seconds of 4 seconds of penalty. I assume that was received because of the pit lane entry issue. And because of that, Gears of Corona also going on to the mediums. Looks like Sharon Fly is doing the same. But Tulipix is going to have to serve that 4 seconds down Conrod. That is going to be horrible. Absolutely horrible. And is only going to work to benefit TBSS Girl here. Just look. Consistent. Staying out of trouble. Staying out of problems. Keeping out of the way. That is how you do well, but also by pushing it further than everyone else and just knowing the limits. Lightspeed in P2 didn't look like P2 was a possibility at one point. Lightspeed certainly wasn't incredibly confident of their performance, of their potential performance here, but I tell you what, worked out well. And Eli Lamas here, the Argentinian driver, I mean, what else can you say? Has been an eventful race for her, though in fairness, who hasn't it been an eventful race for? Girl Sean in P4 had problems further earlier down the mountain, and to be honest with you, has come out of it relatively positively. Of course, the top 4 are yet to pit. That is a factor we need to bear in mind. Here's the forced deceleration and a massive amount of deceleration down one of the most important straights on the track, and that is going to be race killing there. Though in fairness, there are stranger things to have happened. The one benefit though that you could make about Gears of Corona right now, even though that she has fallen behind, is that she still has the fastest lap. She will still get the point for the pole position, and she'll get the point for the fastest lap. So that is going to help, though not as helpful as winning the race, which gives you a greater chunk of points. So the podium as it stands, and this is a very different podium to that of 5 laps ago, and even before pit stops, TBSS Girl 21 leading the way, Lightspeed in P2, and Ellie Lamas in P3. That is your podium so far. Of course, these 3 drivers yet to pit, as well FR Girl Sean yet to pit so far this race. We're going to see them pit. To be honest, with the gap that she's now got, TBSS Girl is going to have a relatively comfortable pit and should end up ahead of Tulipix and Gears of Corona after making the decision to come in. Aston has really looked good around this Bathurst circuit, around Mount Panorama. And the consistency has been key so far in this race. As we head down the end of Conrod up towards the chase, a sudden break at the 100-meter board, left, then a right, heading under the Armorall Bridge, and through into the final corner at Murray's Corner. It is all to play for. But as we said, Gears of Corona looked like she was well away. Had a problem. It looked like Tulipix had gotten a sense of the mountain from the lead. Had a problem. Anything is possible, and any of these drivers could be caught by a mistake or an accident or an issue. It can and will probably, in all likelihood, head around the mountain happen. Watching Tulipix heading through the chase. Really, really putting everything into those tyres right now. See, Gershon's now coming in. So she's going to fall behind Tulipix here. And the order will start to reset. The deltas will start to reset. And we'll see how things go. Gears of Groner, of course. Probably your net P3 is your net third position at the moment. But in fairness, Ellie Lamas probably in a slightly better position than others. I think potentially Lightspeed with a pit stop could be in a shout for a podium here. Just waiting to see when the strategy calls come in. TBSS girl thinking, to be honest with you right now, I'm feeling pretty good in this car. This car's doing wonders for me. I'm not going to make a decision before I really need to. Lightspeed saying the same. Ellie Lamas saying the same. On board with Zoe at the moment. A driver who's had... Another driver that's, of course, had ups and downs through this race, had damage, but is not quite able to eat into the German, of course, the German Sharon Fly's gap so far. Just these two have been kind of following each other for much of the race. And you can see on the straight, Sharon is losing, but I wonder if Sharon is just making the most of it on the mountains to really kind of keep that Mercedes away. You didn't know, of course, these cars are all tuned to GT4 spec, which is why you'd see on the same track as these two cars, you would, of course, see, in this case, the Aston Martin, but you'd also see the Mazdas. Still not coming to the pits yet, the lead three. 45 seconds sits between Tulipix and TBSS Girl, and right now, that's around the pit stop time, so it would make sense on the border there. I think within that, I think you're probably going to see Ellie Lamas get overtaken when the pit happens. Possibly could end up being a very close one with Lightspeed. Could be a close one. It's going to be very finite about what happens through the mountain, and if Lightspeed can continue to keep putting time on these tyres and really continue to extend a gap here. That is going to be the question. If Lightspeed can do that, then to be quite honest with you, there is a chance that we could see a battle here for P2 Delta in this race. I mean, TBSS Girl is a bridge too far right now. Lightspeed could be a potential challenger here. Though, in fairness, I say that, heading through the S's, really having a moment there, that is not going to help the cause. Aston now heading through Conrad, heading down towards the chase. I'm wondering if she is going to pit. Will that be the question? Aston will not heel in. Aston is going to keep going around for another lap here, a 15th lap around Mount Panorama. Lightspeed right now, the Alpha, currently in pursuit. But I would be very surprised if she wouldn't come in. And she does not. The Alpha deciding a 15th lap is a good idea as well. Ellie Lamas also doing the same. 15 laps for all of these cars, no change. Tulipix, the first of the cars behind who has pitted. And the question is going to be here, when is that time where you feel like you're going to lose or gain? Where your pit strategies suddenly kind of converge and the ideal pit strategy window is. Because if they leave it far too late, they allow the cars with greater tyres to really eat into their advantage and reel them in. And that becomes a problem later on in the race. And it looks like Gears is having a ton of problems losing time. That gap now 8 seconds. I mean, what else can you say? Well, it went from leading the race to P3, now P5, not including any pit stops for the top 3 yet, but it really hasn't been a day to forget for the championship leader. Chulipic's rubbing the outside of the wall through the cutting there, and a penalty of 5/10. Played it risky, got caught, and that is going to eat, once again, stretch out the gap here for Eli Lamas and for Lightspeed. In fairness, I think this is probably the best case scenario for the two of them. Any chance of extending that gap is one that's going to be good for these drivers. Lightspeed, of course, heading down Conrad now. The Alpha in P2. Question will be, what will TBSS girl do? She finally pits. The race leader is now pitting. The number 21 is going to make it round, I'd say, relatively successfully. No penalties there. Kept it nice and clean. Lightspeed, I can imagine, will do the same. Needs to happen. Yes, there we go. Into the pit lane. Needed to happen. Will Eli Lamas do the same? Eli Lamas won't. Okay. This is a question. What's the risk reward here for the Mazda? I don't see very much. She's on the medium tyre, but the question is about fuel as well. I mean, those engines were almost... Well, we're having a look at the moment to see how things go. Refueling there for Lightspeed. And it looks like Lightspeed, unfortunately, didn't get enough to really eat into that gap. So it does look like, if all goes right, that your net top 3 will be TBSS Girl, Chulipix, and Gears of Grona. Kind of makes sense, as I just do not see Eli Lamas extending that gap enough to clear one, if not all of these drivers after a pit stop. Chulipix, though, running into lap traffic. Sarah Hawkey in P9, heading up, of course, through Quarry Corner. Gears are starting to get eaten once again to Chulipix's lap times now, though. I think she found some confidence. I say that. She hits the wall there. The mountain giveth, the mountain taketh away. Right now, though, doesn't seem to be affecting her too badly. Gap 4.5 seconds. Lap traffic is going to be a factor here. Though, in fairness, of all the times to come up on lap traffic, Conrad Straight ain't a bad one. Conrad, are we going to see Sarah Hawkey move out the way? Possibly in a moment. Eli Lamas. We have to be close to coming into the pits. Next couple of laps. Surprised if she doesn't, and she does. The Argentinian driver comes in. I don't think that's going to be enough. Certainly not enough to have maintained P1. P2, probably not. We'll probably fall behind Lightspeed and down to P6, most likely. So the order sits as thusly, with pit stops now all completed. TBSS Girl leading the way. Chulipix in P2. Gears of Grona is trying to reel in Chulipix right now in P3, and that is your podium so far. 3 regulars on this, 3 former race winners. Of course, Gears of Grona are a 2-time race winner in the series. And right now, all 3 of them in the spots for a podium here at Bathurst. Ellie Lamas came out exactly where P5. That makes perfect sense. So yeah, Ellie Lamas there, relatively decent. It's going to get some good points here today. Definitely going to get some good points. Much improved over the last race that she was able to enter, of course, at the Nürburgring, where technical issues took away a race win there, or a successful race, sorry, pardon me. Not necessarily a race win, but a successful race and successful performance for the Mazda driver. So we see TBS S-Girl heading down through this selection of corners through the dipper and in to Forest Elborough, but Tulipix, that gap is now 2 tenths. The gap between Tulipix and Gears of Grona now 4 seconds. So it's 2.5 seconds, pardon me, for the previous gap. TBS S-Girl now not having a good lap at the moment. It's being reeled in by that Mazda. Almost seemed like a foregone conclusion. The question, I think, in all honesty with you here, I think leaving it so late was probably not the best idea here for the Aston. The Aston now needs to get those tyres up to temperature relatively quickly. Otherwise, this could be much closer than it should need to be. And here's where the pressure of being the driver being the lead driver versus being the driver who's chasing will really come into effect here. Who is going to make the move? Who is going to make the mistake? Who is going to make blink first? And that's going to be the question. And here's a driver that could come back through and really benefit from any issues up front. Of course, Gears of Grona, the championship leader. TBS S-Girl, though, heading through Griffin's Bend. That gap is still coming down. Heading up through the cutting. This is not going the way of the Aston right now. And that Mazda is eating into that gap. Keep the car ahead, though, in fairness. A bit of a bump there with the outside wall and almost clipping it again. Heading out of Quarry Corner. As we head through Frog Hollow. Into Salmon Park. Losing time. The Aston benefiting there. Good cornering and staying out of trouble. Ooh, trouble for Tulipix. Through the S's, has to take a non-opportune line. Didn't seem to affect the gap too much, but that will absolutely help TBS S-Girl through Conrod Straight as she gets the better exit. That is going to help Gears of Grona, though. P3 at the moment. The McLaren doing a pretty good job. And we've got 10 minutes left to go of this race. So far, the top 3 are the names that we've seen quite a lot in the top. I've seen quite a lot on the top step of the podium over this season. In fact, all 3 of them are the only drivers we've seen on the top step of the podium this season. But so far, only one of them can take a win here at the legendary Mount Panorama. TBS S-Girl, though, has advantage at the moment. All pit stops are done. It is survival for the last 10 minutes. TBS S-Girl, though, gap's about 1.5 seconds between her and Tulipix and the Mazda. As they head through Mountain Straight. It's again, sudden rise, dip, and then rise again into another dip as they head into Griffin's Bend. So far, TBS S-Girl, still keeping that gap kind of relatively close. Gears of Grona, though, is taking advantage of this, is reeling in that gap to Tulipix. This has definitely been a race of interest, not because of tyre strategy, not because of any other strategy, purely for who can run this track to its very limit, the very best. There's a yellow flag There's an issue here. Not sure what with. Oh, this is bad. Liberal chaos and issue for Tulipix. Issue for Tulipix into the back of the lap traffic. Oh no, this is chaotic. Gears of Grona getting involved in there as well. Liberal chaos, kind of proving slight to the name there, having massive implications, and that gap is now spread out. I think TBSS Girl must be absolutely breathing a sigh of relief. That there has just created an increased gap between her and Tulipix. A bit less pressure from the Mazda. The Mazda's going to have to try and make that gap up all over again. Looks like it's going to try to, but Tulipix is going to have to keep pushing even harder. 7 minutes left. Coming up towards lap 20 here around the famous Mount Panorama circuit. So far, question marks still exist. That incident affecting Tulipix more than Gears of Grona. That front end ended into the rear end, and that of that McLaren heading down past the S's there. But there is damage on the front of that Mazda, and that is going to be a problem. That is absolutely going to be a problem. Doesn't seem to be affecting her in the speed department, especially not with a time like that. Looking incredibly hard. So this is interesting. Can the Aston hold on? Will there be any more mistakes? Will there be any more stories to tell around the mountain? It makes tales in real life and in sim racing. The same stories exist on every sim you race it on. But right now, Gran Turismo 7 is telling the story of these three drivers. TBSS Girl 21 leading the way, but it is under pressure. Took the lead back after incidents for these other two drivers earlier in the race. Bit of drift there through the S's for the Mazda, but managed to gain the lead. TBSS Girl, of course, was the championship leader up until the last round at Spa. Bad race there and a good race for the other championship rivals cost that championship lead, but so far the story there is, can she hold on? Can she make some fight back into the championship? Tulipix, a driver who was leading the way, had issues, almost looked like a repeat of Spa, just nowhere close after incidents. But Gears of Grona had a problem while leading the race. That gap completely disintegrated, and right now it looks like Tulipix had another problem. These cars are pushing to their absolute limits. And talking about Gears of Grona, at one point was leading the race incredibly comfortably. But an issue coming out of Griffin's Bend meant that all that gap, all of that pace, all of that time was gone. And these two ended up in front, and she ended up a distant third. But right now she's got a chance not only to maintain her championship lead, but also not necessarily strengthen it, but complete as close to damage limitation as you can. A second place, fastest lap, and pole position point as well would be pretty good if she cannot take the race win. Right now, Tulipix is not allowing that to happen. These three cars are telling the story of this race here at Bathurst in the Screen to Speed Winter Cup. And looks like almost some bumping there from Tulipix. Oh, Tulipix hit a wall. Heading up through Quarry Corner. They're side by side, heading through Frog Hollow. Tulipix is still ahead. Gears of Grona. He's going to try and make a move. Through Solomon Park. Through McPhillamy. Heading through Skyline. Tulipix still leading the way. S's, though, being incredibly tough to both of these drivers. It looks like an issue for Tulipix. Tulipix has had a problem, gets moved by Gears of Grona through all of that. And it looks like Tulipix is having massive problems, and Gears of Grona's through. And this really is damage limitation, but could be from damage limitation to strength, if she can get back at TBSS Girl. That's going to be the question. Tulipix, though, is gaining. Tulipix is gaining right now down Conrad. The Mazda maybe might make a move through the chase. Lines are decided. Grona takes the inside. Bit of bumping. McLaren's going to take the inside line. A wide corner for Tulipix, and Tulipix is punished for it with the grass. It was a bit ambitious there for the Mazda driver, and that probably constitutes an unfortunate loss there for Tulipix. Race win unlikely, barring an issue between these drivers. We'll look back at some of the other drivers so far. That's Lightspeed right now. Ellie Lamas right now, currently in P4 at the moment. Currently ahead of Lightspeed. Not sure what happened there. We'll try and figure out what's happened. But of course, Ellie Lamas just off the podium at the moment. So really good stuff there from the Argentinian driver. Lightspeed though in P3. Looks like potentially the tyres finally getting to the Alfa Romeo probably was the reason. And it just looks like Ellie Lamas had the benefit of the situation. Trying to get past the lap traffic though at the moment. 2 minutes left to go. We are probably going to get this. The next lap will most likely be the final lap. Considering this a lap here is about 2.25 minutes. In this case, around 2:11, 2:12, 2:13, 2:14 at the front end of this grid. This will probably be the second to last lap. Wait to see what happens. That gap now down to 3/10. Gears of Grona going to try and make a move. At one point, this almost looked like it was never going to happen. It potentially is going to happen right now. The Aston Martin and the McLaren are going to go tough as nails with each other. Some bumping there from the McLaren. TBSS Girl gets the better launch through Conrad. The McLaren could not make up the gap. Not eating into that gap. If this is the final lap, the Aston needs to make this car as wide as the track. Gears of Grona. Try and make a move through the chase. Can't do so. Heading through Murray Corner. Into the next... they're heading through Murray Corner next for what I think is going to be the final lap of this race. And it looks like an issue there for TBSS Girl. Gears of Grona is going to take the lead. And this is the final lap. Oh, right. Okay. I didn't expect. So that was a last lap pass. A last corner pass for TBSS Girl. And it is Gears of Grona who wins. I genuinely thought we would get one more lap out of that. But it is Gears of Grona who wins. TBSS Girl second after a last corner pass for the McLaren. So what looked like a championship fight back from TBSS Girl has now become a slight widening of the gap after Gears of Grona pulls a reverse and manages to pull out a race win. 3 race wins on the season. Of course, outside of that, Ellie Lamas in P4, Lightspeed P5. Well, Sean, P6. Relatively uneventful considering the eventfulness of other drivers on the grid. But the Ferrari driver comes home in P6. P7 is Sharon Fly, staying ahead of Zoe throughout the entire race and with a pretty healthy gap by the end of it. Zoe will come home P8, Sarah Hawkey's going to be in P9. Liberal Chaos will finish at the back of the grid in P10. Zoe's just going to see out the rest of this track. You're going to have P8 regardless of. So you might as well just bring it home. "22 laps of Bathurst done. And that is your result in the penultimate race of this GT7 Championship here in the Screen to Speed Winter Cup. We'll look at the race results and the official race results very shortly. So as you saw, Gears of Grona, a last corner pass for the race win. We'll get the pole position point. We'll get the fastest lap point, and ultimately the race win. Incredible stuff there. TBSS Girl 21 will just miss out on potentially fighting back ever so slightly in the championship. P2 though, not bad. Sheila Pix in P3, managing to hold on. Ellie Lamas in P4, Lightspeed P5. FR Girl Sean P6, Sharon Fly P7, Zoe P8. And the last two qualified drivers, of course, are going to be Sarah Hawkey and Liberal Chaos. We'll get some interviews in relatively shortly. See who we can bring in first on this one here. While we wait for people to potentially hop in for an interview, we will ultimately say what a race that was. I mean, what else can you say? It was a race that you didn't quite know what was going to happen. So much was happening from top to bottom. And it really was survival of who was the fittest today. And ultimately, even after that one issue, the championship leader manages to make it matter most by winning on the final corner of that race. 22 laps decided it. I mean, what else can you say? Well, I guess we'll start off with the first person we can interview, third place finisher, Julipix. Julipix, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, okay. I mean, that was definitely an eventful race, though I expected it from a circuit like Bathurst.
It was, for sure. It's definitely a track where you make one little mistake, it can have a big effect, and I think we all saw that, especially me and Gears S, so, yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, you still managed to recover pretty well and had some incredibly good pace, just some issues. I think, to be honest with you, the S's seem to be your nemesis all day, really, more than anything.
It's really hard there. It's so hard to judge, especially with the front-wheel drive car like I have. And yeah, it's so easy to make a mistake there and go into the wall, or, you know, when that lapped car distracted me, it wasn't their fault, it was my fault going into them. And yeah, it is frustrating because I think I definitely had the pace to win, but just a few too many mistakes. And the pit entry, I don't know if you saw that, but I made a mistake at the pit entry, and you got a 4-second penalty for that, and that was huge. So,
no, of course, yeah, I saw that, and yeah, definitely compromised you a bit. But I mean, considering everything that happened, I think P3 was probably a good result, all considering. I mean, of course, next race is going to be at the final race, of course, at Red Bull Ring, the reorganized race at Red Bull Ring. How are you feeling about your chances there?
It's not one of my favorite tracks, to be honest, but I think the Mazda, even with 16 less horsepower after the last update, I think I still have a power advantage, so I think it'll help at that track. So, we'll just have to see.
Of course. Well, Julipix, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, and fingers crossed we get to speak to you one more time, of course, with the last round at Red Bull Ring next week.
Hopefully. I'll look forward to it. Thank you.
No problem. That, of course, is your third place finisher, Julipix, as we move on to the second place finisher, and it's going to be Jenny, TBSS Girl. Jenny, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How must that feel? You were so close.
Yeah, that was, I'm gutted, but, I knew she would take the inside going into that last corner, so I tried my best to block off that inside, and I just have never taken that corner at that angle before, so I just did not know how to do it, so cost me there, but I'm still really proud of my efforts today and being that close.
No, of course. Well, considering everything that happened, I mean, at one point, even being in the challenge or being there for a fight for the win, seemed almost unrealistic considering the gap that Gears had. But of course, Gears had that problem coming out of Griffin's Bend. I guess for you, the one thing I will say was consistency throughout the entire circuit. I never seem to see you overdo it around this track. I guess maybe what's a little tip for anyone that was watching?
Yeah, I just knew that, wall penalties would be a big thing around this track with everything being so tight. So I just tried to not over push. I just tried to, stay calm and not try to overdo it in order to limit my mistakes. So, I wasn't going 110% every lap. Just, trying to go to the max but not overdo it is really the key to minimizing mistakes and staying away from those walls.
Of course. Well, I mean, other than that, I'm going to hold on to you here for now, just because I've got Gearza in the chat. I'll talk to Gearza because I actually would like the input of both of you at the end of this.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk to our race winner first. Gearza, how did you do that?
I don't know. I had a comfortable lead at the start of the race after Kiyuki made that error. And then I just made like the dumbest move ever into turn 2. Crashed and spun. Had to pit early to fix my damage, and I just put my head down. Yeah, I've learned the lesson of never ever giving up. So I gave it my all until the end, and it paid off.
Well, that's it. I mean, I was quite surprised, but I guess my question is, coming out of Griffin's Bend, was that just you overestimating the exit of the corner, and you just spun the car, or was there something else that you'd missed there?
I think my mind just blanked, and the curb also was very weird to me. I went over the curb and it did not like that at all, so it spun me into the wall. So it was partly just me blanking out. It was also partly the curb just destroying me.
No, of course. Well, on top of that, I guess we'll bring you both in. I guess I'll ask you both the same question, especially because you are the two. You're the top 2 in the championship going into the final round, of course, at the Red Bull Ring, the reorganized Red Bull Ring race. I'll start off with you, Jenny. When it comes to Red Bull Ring, how do you feel about your chances there?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm comfortable around the track, but I'm sure Gearza has plenty of experience there as well. So I just am having the same plan as I did this race, try to minimize mistakes. I'm not sure how the tire wear will be there, but I feel like our 2 cars are pretty even on tire wear. I know the Mazdas have a big swing in theirs, but I like the track, so I'm hoping that, I could just go mistake-free. That way I knew that I gave it my all.
No, of course. Well, other than that, I mean, on top of that, Gearza, I guess I want to ask you the same question. How do you feel about the Red Bull Ring in this in the final race of the season? How do you feel about it?
It's definitely going to be a bit more of a challenge with the nerf to the McLaren in the last update. But that'll be a good battle for slipstreaming and stuff like that. So as long as I can hang in that slipstream, I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic battle and an amazing way to end off the championship.
Of course. Well, with that all said and done, I guess my next question is going to be ultimately, in terms of the championship, of course, the top 3 today, as we know, it was you, you 2, and then obviously Tulipix in P3. I guess with you 2 being the leaders in the championship, I think for me, the question will be, who's going to come out on top between the 2 of you? I know Advantage today is going to once again swing your way, Gearza. But do you think there's a chance at all, Jenny, to potentially get one back at the in the final race?
Well, there's always a chance. You never know what can happen if she gets caught up in a wreck or anything. So, I think I'm close enough there where if something were to happen that, if I stayed and avoided any carnage like that, I definitely do have a chance. I think I'm still in it. So, yeah, I think there's always a chance until it's over.
No, of course. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure from both of you. Of course, look at the final points. They've managed to put them on the screen. Gears are currently on 225, and you, Jenny, you're on 210. So, there's still all the chance. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure speaking to you both. We can't wait to see you both go and gun it out for the final race of the season, of course, at Red Bull Ring.
Yep, thank you very much.
So that, of course, is your P2 and P1 finisher. We thought it would be interesting to get both of their inputs on this one, as we'll go through the rest of the order. Of course, Sean Mickelson, of course, that's our girl Sean, currently in P3, but only tied on points with Sheila Pix. So that there is interesting there for Sheila Pix as well. It's going to be a battle to watch there. Sarah Hawkey and Mariah Light. This is going to be a battle that is going to go quite deep into the final race. Of course, in P5 and P6, that gap only 3 points. Sharon Fly looks a relatively comfortable 7th over Purple Labras. P8 Ellie Lamas. Asher Silver P9 and P10. Annalise Wright P11 with Kristen Back in P12. Yukina Suzuka P13. Zoe P14. Carl Oliveira P15. Tana Kitas in P16. Just Hun P17. Girl Cole P18. Shara PT P19. Sandrita P20, Ellie P21, S Sparkles GL P22, Christina Ruiz P23, and Christina Ryan P24. So that is it for tonight. Of course, we'll do a quick brief mention about a couple of things that are going on or are coming up very shortly. Of course, the final race of the calendar is the reorganized Red Bull race next weekend. Make sure you join us on Sunday for that. There are some other races coming up, of course, though. We have the Women's International Day race on the 8th of March, so keep an eye out on that one. The new season of the Spring Cup will look to be starting somewhere in April, so please keep your eyes on the screen and keep an eye on social media for that one. Of course, mentioned before, on iRacing this time, of course, it's a Race for a Cause 24. The Circuit de la Sarthe is due on the 20th of April. So if you're interested in entering a LMDH, an LMP2, or a GT3, you can find out a little bit more on the Prismatic Motorsports Discord, on the Prismatic Motorsports social media pages, and on the event Discord linked in the posts that we make. So if you want to enter, potentially plenty of spaces there to raise money for Rainbow Railroad. And with that all said and done, that has been your broadcast for today for the penultimate round here at Bathurst. We want to say a huge thank you, of course, to the broadcast direction from Stephen Proudley of AK Esports, race direction from Sophia Romwin. I'm Jamie Jessica Martin, and for the second to last time, thank you, and we'll see you soon.